Yeah, I want to go over something because, one of my major beefs always sometimes is with the silver tards out there that are actually rah, rah, rah on the price of silver, especially when it goes in a bubble, But right now, we're not in a bubble. But I was looking at something from Jim Rogers back, I think it was an interview back in April of 2011, and they were talking about, where they expected the price of silver to go. And the title basically on video was about expectations of $100 silver. Jim Rogers expects $100 silver. And I says, let me listen to what he actually said. He didn't actually say that, but it was like very misleading. He was actually saying, he hopes that silver doesn't go straight to $100 because if it does, that's going to be the final bubble. That's going to be it. Basically, because then they'll have to do something radical or something with the currency or whatever the heck it is, or the monetary policy or whatever. But he was stating that, people are all getting, and this is back in April of 2011, a lot of people were noticing silver back then because it was in a bull market and it had a historical pattern already looking back, and people were not paying attention to it before. Now, I put a lot of silver videos out when silver's like, $20 or $18 or $19, over here over the last year. That's really when you ought to be buying it and stuff. The 18 price point was, maybe that was the bottom. That was it. Maybe we're still, but when it takes off, it kind of takes off like a hyperbolic curve, and you don't know when that's going to happen. That's when everybody else is going to notice it. That's when, like Jim Rogers was talking about back in April 2011. He was never stating that silver was going to go straight to $100. Actually, he didn't expect it to, but if it gets in a bubble, he says, well, I'd be thinking of selling then. He'd be thinking of selling, right? Now, let me put it to you this way. Everybody else that was in a time at that time would be telling you it's going to $500, it's going to $1,000, it's going to $2,000, right? Oh, the currency's going to be worth nothing, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's really nothing. The U.S. dollar is a little bit different animal than a lot of other stuff out there, despite, I know that's not what people want to hear, because I'm not trying to tell people what they want to hear. I'm trying to tell you the freaking truth, So I guess my message is not going to be, hopefully it's popular, but it's not. I'm not trying to play like the game the other guys are doing. But the dollar, I think will lose its world reserve currency status eventually, or be greatly diminished in a world of importance. But it's never going to be something that is, well, let me put it this way, it's not going to be replaced in the United States of America as far as the currency. It's going to be the U.S. dollar, and I guess if they replaced it, it would be a hybrid with maybe an Amero, but I kind of don't think that's going to happen, because I think that idea has been shot down too many times. But, if the time when people get into something it's always when people already made the money on it. Everybody's like, wow, look, I've been making all this money on silver, it's going up, that's when they get into it. And that's why the majority gets suckered every time. Now, Soros back at that time, and I have to mention Soros because that was Jim Rogers and Soros, George Soros were partners in that quantum fund for all those years. They made all that money. Soros was talking about gold was he says gold is the ultimate bubble back then. And, everybody interpreted that as saying gold was in a bubble. He was saying, I don't think he was saying that. I think he was actually stating that gold was going to be in the ultimate bubble. But, actually, if you listen to the source, Jim Rogers or Soros, without it being filtered through these other disinformation agents, whatever the hell they are, I guess that's what they are, because they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. So, in other words, their words are basically investing 101 to the max. When Jim Rogers was talking about, wow, silver was going up so fast in the last few weeks, This was back in 2011. I think it was probably like in April 2011 or maybe March or April or something. And they were talking about expectation, you know, and the silver crowd was talking about expectations of $100. They basically titled the video that silver was going to go over $100 and Jim Rogers expects to be over $100. He didn't really state that. He stated eventually expected it to go over $100. Eventually. He says if it went over $100 immediately, that definitely would be a bubble. And he'd be thinking about selling. Actually, I think it would be like a guarantee he'd be selling. But you know what I'm repeating it, but you know what the silver crowd would have been saying. Also, they were saying at that time, $500 silver, $1,000 silver, and they were pulling out all the statistics. You know how that you'll be because there's not enough silver on the earth. But there are things that can replace silver. It's always been, you know, if the price of something goes up too much. There's different types of nanotechnology out there that can replace silver, even electronic circuits. And yeah, I know it's going to be coming on strong in, you know, solar panels. But there's other things out there that can, you know, if the price goes up enough, necessity is the mother of all invention. That's exactly the way it is. So, and as far as the currency going to oblivion, I highly, highly doubt that. As far as the currency of the United States losing power, as you know, in the world, yeah, I think that's a given. I think that's a plan, but they're not going to make the dollar go to zero. The planners on the top don't want that to happen. We'll have inflation. Things will cost more money. You'll need more dollars to pay for whatever, but it's not going to go to zero. So if you make a lot of money, or if it looks like the silver prices are going way the hell up, don't be afraid to take the fiat dollars and move into something else later on. You might, I mean, you're not going to catch the exact height, but don't be afraid of doing it. You know, I'm just looking back at what Jim Rogers said back in 2011 during the, you know, the bubble time, which in retrospect that we know it was the bubble time back then. He wasn't stating silver was going right to $100. He says he thinks eventually. And you know, that's what I expect. I'm expecting it. You know, I think it's not going to go even right to the next time it jumps up. It's probably not going to go to 100 either. It might go to like the 70 to 75 or 65, break through 50 solidly and come back down. I think the $100 silver is going to be like, yeah, it could be late 2017 or 2018. But you know, nobody's even thinking about it now because it's kind of like flat and boring, right? But like he said, you know, the legendary investor told people back then, you know, everybody was thinking about silver because when they saw the past bull curve, then they thought about it. And then it got focused. But that was the wrong time to buy it, and that's when a lot of people bought it at over $40. So anyway, I just want to put this out as a little quick reminder on things because that's really how it is. That's just how it is, you know. And later on, when people are getting all excited about the price is going to move up, I mean, I don't think I'd catch the exact height. You'd have to be exact. You have to be lucky. But I'm not going to be afraid to part with it and take. And I'm not going to part with all of it because I like some of it anyway, and I'll probably keep some of it. But I'll take the cash. I'll take the cash and go into something else. It's exactly the way it'll be. And I know people are going to be screaming at me about the Zimbabwe thing and the Weimar Republic, and I don't think that's going to be the way it is in the United States, despite the debt and everything else. What I think they got planned is the U.S. loses, and actually the United States, even in the future, it may not be the premier superpower in the world. You know, it might get diminished economically, but it is still going to be a premier superpower, a premier country. I think that's what they got planned. It's not going to go to like we become, you know, the lowest on the totem pole or whatever as far as economic power. I doubt that very much. It's going to, the U.S. dollar is probably going to be around for many, many, many years. If there's a crisis, they can iron it out in other ways. The game they're playing is they're trying to, the debt crisis is not about destroying the dollar completely. It's about causing all nations to go under the umbrella of a global financial system. That's the game. It's not about getting rid of the US dollar and making it go to zero. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway, I just wanted to put this out as a reminder because, I realized that Jim Rogers wasn't saying anything wrong back then, but what was going on was the headlines that they were putting on the presentation when they interviewed him, like they made it sound like if somebody wasn't paying attention to the whole interview with this guy, if they just saw the headline, they would think, wow, silver's going right to $100 that year. Very much misinformation, bad information. And I think that could be very much the same game that's going to happen again. It may not go straight to, I'm guessing this, but I don't know this for a fact. He didn't know it back then. Nobody really knows because they don't call it the devil's metal for nothing, because it does take price movements that are very unexpected. But the time to get in it, like he used to say, was people should have been getting in it back when it was, cheap, $8 or something like that, not jumping into it when it was $40-something. Now, I think the $8 deal and the $10 deal is done. The next time it jumps up, it's probably going to, if it breaks through 50, it'll probably go quite a bit through 50 and go to 65 or 72 or 75 or whatever. And when it comes back down, it won't be seeing this $20 level ever again. So just keep things in perspective and, stick with it, but don't be afraid to part with it when the price is right, as they say, okay? You might want to take what's behind door number 1 or door number 2 or door number 3 when the price is right, so to speak, and part with your silver and go into something else. Jim Rogers was right back then, I'm not like following the guy around like I worship him or something like that, but he wasn't giving anybody bad advice. They just based what the title of the videos back then about the $100 silver was taking a couple words he said out of context and really misleading people to the max. So anyway, over and out. Just want to put this out real quickly because keep a little common sense on your side, because that's it's almost like I always like that video I did with Sam Zell's words of wisdom. I always put that link on the bottom. It said his words of wisdom are excellent, to tell you the truth. Just use your common sense the best you can.